Good evening, this is BelGeode and we are back with some Microsoft Flight Simulator X Steam Edition. Woohoo! And we're back here in Vietnam at Cam Ranh Air Base. Today we're going to be taking a look at the F-5E, otherwise known as the Tiger II. Now the F-5E started life as the F-5A, and it was called the Freedom Fighter at that time, but this one's the Tiger II. Now this particular FSX model was created by Vertavia. It's a rather older Vertavia model, but it's still available, it's still payware. You can find it on most of the usual websites, I guess. Alright, and we've got some Mark 84s under the wings, so we're going to be doing a mock bombing run here. It's been ages since I've been in this plane. Okay, let's see if I remember to start up the engines here. There we go. Number one is on fire. We'll get number two started up in a moment, and then I'll tell you a little bit of the history of this aircraft. While we're at it, we'll get some lights going in the cabin. Probably don't really need them. It's morning here. And you can tell this is an old model. Look at that. Dang, textures leave a little to be desired. But we're not going to hate on a Tiger II here, because this is our chariot for blasting Charlie back into the Stone Age. So, as soon as we get that number two engine up and running here, we'll drop the flaps, we'll lower the canopy, we'll call for clearance, and we will be out of here. There we go. Number two is fired up. Drop the flaps while we're at it. Perfect. Looking good. Looking good. Alright, now we're ready. And if you're wondering why this aircraft looks a little bit familiar, yes, this is the same aircraft used by the Navy in Top Gun as the adversarial craft. Alright, let's go ahead and lock my canopy here. There we go. And we'll go ahead and call for clearance. I'm actually going to use the tower this time. Ground Air Force 405, request taxi for takeoff, departing straight out. I think that should have been Cam Ranh around. Okay. Taxi 2 and hold short, runway 20 right, using taxiway Bravo 10, Bravo 9, Bravo 6, Bravo 3, Bravo 1, Air Force 405. Dang. Could have just said hang a couple of lefts and then go straight. That would have been a lot easier than all of that. Alright, but we are ready to go, so we'll come off the brakes, give it a little bit of throttle, and we're going to make our first left. You can tell this is a Vertavia craft. Look at the instruments. They always have that funky looking glare over all of the instruments there. I've noticed that in every single Vertavia craft. And what the hell is this flickering? Go ahead and turn the cabin lights off. We don't need them. It's the daytime. Okay, so now that we're good to go, let me give you a little bit of the history of this aircraft. Believe it or not, this aircraft first flew as the F-5A on the 30th of July in 1959. Now the E model that we're flying first flew on the 11th of August in 1972, but it was introduced into military service as the F-5A and eventually B in 1962. So naturally this plane was just in time for Vietnam, and it was used extensively. Believe it or not, initially the Air Force didn't really want it, because they really didn't have a desire to have like a light attack aircraft in their arsenal, so they really kind of thumbed their nose at it initially. But they eventually took it under its wing, and this would go on to be one of the most popular aircraft during the Vietnam War. It ran so many sorties. I think somewhere around the region of 2,500 to 3,000 sorties during the Vietnam War. So it's definitely had an amazing life. I think the exact figure is like 2,600, thereabouts. I don't care who you are, but that is a lot of freaking sorties. So yeah, this thing was primarily an attack craft. Yes, it does have the sidewinders on the wings for self-defense, so it could be used as a fighter. Actually very ably as a fighter, but they primarily use this as an attack craft, which is what we're going to be doing today. Now, an interesting thing about the aircraft, it actually never flew out of Cam Ranh. It actually flew out of Bien Hoa in South Vietnam and also Da Nang Air Base. But since I kind of like Cam Ranh, I figured we'll stay here for another episode, and then maybe next episode we'll travel to a different air base. Alright, let's go ahead and take off clearance here. As soon as I can get this thing to pop up. Ah, there we go. Cam Ranh Tower, Air Force 405, ready for straight out departure at runway 20 right.
Air Force 405, cleared for takeoff, runway 20 right, departing straight out, approved.
Okay, good deal. Cleared for takeoff, runway 20 right, Air Force 405. Alright. Having flashbacks to Nam here. Wasn't even alive during then. Although if there is such a thing as past lives, I'm thinking my last past life was probably in Vietnam, and I was probably a pilot. Most likely for the Navy or Marines. Alright, be that as it may, we are ready to go. So you know what it's time for. Brakes down and throttles up. And here we go. We're off. I forget what the rotate speed is on this, so I'm just going to kind of guesstimate. I want to say it's probably close to like 150, thereabouts. Either way, I've got the afterburners on this sucker, so we should be up there momentarily. And of course, I'm swerving all across the runway. Jeez. Okay, let's rotate. This thing just jumps into the air. And gears on its way up. Okay, well, we're not going to contact Ho Chi Minh Center because that would have been after the Vietnam War, and we ain't jumping time here. We are, however, going to turn off the landing lights, so let me go ahead and hit that in a sec here. Okay, and we are on the way out. Let's get this mission done. Alright, so, if you caught the last episode, I was discussing the role of the FAC, or the Forward Air Controller. Basically, the guys in the Broncos, or occasionally some of the other aircraft that they use, like the Cessna Bird Dog, they would fly over hostile airspace and essentially relay targets to aircraft like this. So we get the word from the Broncos that, okay, we've got some Charlie, they're encroaching on our troops' locations, and we're going to need to drop some Mark 84s or maybe some napalms. So we're going to fly inbound pretty much as fast as we can, because time is critical for these kinds of missions. And as soon as we get into the location, hopefully it'll be marked by Willie Pete, which is white phosphorus, and we can just basically drop bombs on target. So that is what we are going to do. So while we're in the process of ingressing here, I'm going to show off a little bit some of the maneuverability of this aircraft. As you can well imagine by the design, this thing is like the Mako shark of the air. This is a very sleek and beautiful bird, let me tell you what. And surprisingly, it is still in service. For some strange reason, this aircraft does not want to retire. So it's still being used around the world by many militaries, and of course it's still in use with the United States Air Force, and I believe also with the Navy. Not to mention the T-38 variant of this is the standard trainer for combat pilots. So here we got a little view from the front as we're ingressing here. Just need to adjust our course slightly. We got the call in from the FAC, so we know where to hit. Alright, let's do this. First thing we're going to want to do is gain a little bit of altitude. We don't want to pop up too high because if there are SAMs in the area, that's going to ruin our day really quick. But we just want to gain enough altitude and maybe flip around a little bit and then begin our dive. So basically we're going to be doing some dive toss bombing. And remember, since this is FSX, you won't actually see the bombs leave the wing. So you'll have to pretend. Use that imagination. Alright, I think this looks good. So we'll flip back around and here we go. As the Japanese would say, Banzai! Okay, so we got our report. Charlie's dead ahead. We're going to drop some Mark 84s on his head. Oh, this is going to be a beautiful thing. So as you can imagine, pilots of this aircraft were in very high demand when it comes to AAA and enemy fire. If you could hear one of these suckers coming through, you better believe every single gun within like a 10-mile radius was trained on these suckers. So naturally we did lose some pilots during the war. Not very many, not as many as, say, the Bronco or some of the other aircraft that flew, but yeah, there were some casualties as a result of this particular war with this aircraft. Alright, we are right about on top of their location, so right about here would be where I would pickle the switch, drop some Mark 84s, kick in the afterburners, pull up, way up, get the hell out of here before they blow us out of the sky with that AK-47 fire or anything else that they got. Alright, and we're going to also pretend that we've got some napalm onto the wings, so we're going to wait for the next order from the FAC to bring us over to where one of our downed pilots needs rescuing. We're going to see if we can pretty much light up the forest around him over by where the enemy is. Sometimes these missions were so danger close, it's a wonder any of our pilots actually survived. And the thing of it is, too, I mean, this thing was no slouch when it came to speed. It was light on its feet. This sucker can max out at Mach 1.6. Now, just to give you a comparison real quick, the FA-18 Hornet maxes out at Mach 1.8, and the F-35 Lightning II, Mach 1.6. You see where I'm going with this? This sucker was pretty damn fast. Not Phantom fast, not Tomcat fast, but it was fast enough to pretty much outrun a lot of the small arms fire that would be coming its way. One thing that it could definitely not outrun, which I don't think most planes can outrun, would be the surface-to-air missile. And the North Vietnamese Army had a lot of them. They bought a whole crap ton from Russia and places like that, and they used those suckers liberally. So that's where we lost most of our aircraft, most of our F-5s during the Vietnam War, was the surface-to-air missiles. Alright, we're coming up on our ridge here, so as soon as we get to the top of the ridge, we have a report that our pilot's just on the lee side there, and we got Viet Cong right here in the saddle. So we're going to drop some napalm. I hope y'all like some napalm death. Whee! Fireball. Cue the boom flower. Alright, now with that done, we're using the clouds for cover a little bit, and we're going to get some altitude and see if we can get the hell out of here. Now officially, only 9 aircraft were lost during the Vietnam War, 7 of which to ground fire and the like, and 2 to what they label as operational causes, which sounds to me like a euphemism for the pilot done messed up. But that's just me, and that ain't my business. In any event, we actually lost a hell of a lot more aircraft than that once South Vietnam was eventually overrun. We lost about 41 of these aircraft to the North Vietnamese when they basically took over the rest of Vietnam. And of course, they wasted no time handing over some of them to their friends in Russia so that Russia could examine this aircraft. And of course, whatever information they gleaned from that was used towards the next generation of aircraft that Russia produced, for example, the Su-27. In addition to which, the influence of this aircraft was also felt in this country because this was essentially the test bed for what would eventually be the FA-18 Hornet. So it's kind of like the pappy of the Hornet in a way. And as you can see, this aircraft is no slouch when it comes to fighting, whether air-to-ground or air-to-air, which is why it is still used today in dissimilar air combat training. Truth be told, though, when Northrop designed and built this sucker, they kind of had a feeling that the military really wasn't going to be all over it. So where they made the most money with this aircraft was actually exporting it to other countries, in particular a lot of the European countries, because of course you got to remember the Cold War was going on around that time as well too. So you had countries like Switzerland and whatnot that also had a pretty sizable force of F-5E Tigers. Hang on a second, we're just going to get down to the deck here. So I'm pretty sure we are in SAM country, so we're going to want to get below radar level. I'll tell you another funny little story about this aircraft. The United States Navy actually bought back a bunch of the planes that the Swiss had, and that eventually became the F-5Fs. They called those the Franken Tigers. Go figure. And of course, in addition to the Swiss, the other countries that use this aircraft are Brazil, Ethiopia, Iran, Kenya, Mexico, Norway, Philippines, Republic of Korea, aka South Korea, Singapore, and of course Republic of China, Taiwan to be precise. So yeah, there's a lot of life in the old girl yet. Not too shabby for a plane that first flew in 1959, huh? So let's look at some of the hard facts of this aircraft here. It was about 47 feet 4 3/4 inches long, wingspan of about 26 feet 8 inches, and about 13 feet 4 1/2 inches tall. It's powered by two General Electric J85 GE21B turbojets, so it's got a thrust of about 3,500 pounds-feet, and with the afterburner about 5,000 pounds-foot. Now this sucker had a max speed, like I said, of Mach 1.6. Average cruise speed is obviously a little bit slower than that. Range of about 760 nautical miles. And a service ceiling of about 51,800. So it's up there. It's definitely up there. As far as armament, this guy had two 20mm guns, revolver cannons they call them, and 7 hard points, so you could pretty much load up anything you want as long as it was not too heavy, because you could carry a max of about 7,000 pounds under there. So you've got rockets that you could carry, you got missiles like the Sidewinder and the AMRAAM, you could even carry the Maverick on this sucker. And of course the versions that were captured by the North Vietnamese ended up carrying the Aphid, Alamo, and Archer, which are all Russian designed missiles. So yeah, if you can hang it, you can take it with you. Okay, so we are closing in on Nha Trang, and I'm going to try and avoid that whole lag central here. We're going to swing out a little bit to the east, and then we're going to head back over to Cam Ranh and bring this big bird in. And there's those lovely little cargo ships still sitting out there. You can probably see Cam Ranh behind this gray cloud here. As soon as we get through it, it should be a little bit more visible. We're coming in kind of fast, so I'm probably going to want to drop the throttle to idle, and I might need to put out the speed brakes, but we'll see how we're doing once I get back into the cockpit and actually take a look at the dial. Oh hell, we're going way too fast here. Okay, yes, throttle definitely to idle, and before I go ahead and call the tower, I'm going to want to get my speed at least close to 200 knots. So, speed brakes coming out. There we go. Such small speed brakes, and yet they actually do the job. Go figure. Of course, it doesn't help that we still got these bombs on the wing, too. That should give us some drag. Alright, here we go. Okay, that is much better. Much better. Alright, so we're going to continue losing speed here, and I'm going to go ahead and call the tower in a moment. We're way off course, though. Alright, Cam Ranh. Full stop landing. Cam Ranh Tower, Air Force 405, 7 miles north to land. Okay.
Altimeter 2988. Air Force 4.
Oh wow, we got clearance already. Love it.
Right.
Cleared to land, runway 20 right, Air Force 405. Okay, gear down. We're going to want to put the flaps down as well. We should be within speed. Yeah, we're looking good. We are looking good. I'm going to add a little bit more power because according to the VASI lights, we are kind of low. And we're off center. We got that Vietnam breeze blowing there. Always seem to get stuck in the light planes trying to come in with this wind. Sheesh. And I am using real-world weather, so this is not modeling weather from 1969. This is actually what's going on today. And I'm side-slipping all over the place. Okay. I might want to do this from the outside view just to make sure we land remotely close to the center line here, because my nose is a little high. Oh, we're looking good. We're looking real good. Alright, let's float this bird home here. And flare. Come on, baby. Come on down. There we go. Alright. A little bit of aerodynamic braking. Very nice. We'll go ahead and put the speed brakes out. And brakes! That's the only downside with coming down so hot. It's going to take a little bit of a while before I stop. And I'm about to get off the runway. Never fails. Sheesh. Well, I'm going to turn off to the right here anyway, so that will work well with our plans. Alright, right here is good.
Air Force 405, contact ground on 130.4.
Okay. Going to 130.4, Air Force 405. Ground, Air Force 405, request taxi to parking.
Air Force 405, taxi to General Aviation Parking. Via taxiway Bravo 14, Charlie 3, Alpha 9er.
What?
Alpha 11.
Where in the hell are they sending me to? Taxi to General Aviation Parking via taxiway Bravo 14 and all that other crap that I'm not even going to bother to read. Are you kidding me? They want me to park on the other side with the rest of the fighters. Well, I was hoping I was going to have a day where I wouldn't drive over the grass, but it does not look like today is that day, so let's see if we can make a U-ey here. A little bit of brakes here. Come on, differential braking, don't let me down here. Aw, damn it, ran out of steam. There we go. Okay, we only had 2 wheels on the grass. That's not too bad. Alright, well, that was easier than I thought. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and taxi over to the other side of the airport. And we're probably going to end up parking close to the F-4 Phantoms, which you will be seeing soon. However, I'm trying to decide which version of FSX's F-4 Phantom I want to show off. I could go with the freeware one that I have, but it is a little bit old. And even though this series is about highlighting older planes, I kind of want to have something that, you know, has a little bit more to it that I can show off in the cockpit. But for now, we're going to go ahead and bring good old Tiger II home. As you can see, this side of the airport is super busy. Look at that. We got some, looks like C-130s over there. Yeah, those definitely look like Hercules. What's the plural of Hercules? Herculeses? Herculi? I don't even know. All I know is they're over there. And then we got a whole bunch of Phantoms there. And I did mention that this Vietnam War project that I downloaded and I'm using for this series, a lot of these planes will fly during the day, so they will pretty much get up and do their own sorties and so on. So that is a really cool addition. Most of these are just static AI. And look at that, there's even birds here. That is so cool. Okay, well they want us to go this way, so this way we are going to go. So yeah, this was part 2 of my Vietnam War series. Part 3 is going to be coming up probably next week or the week after. I still need to do a couple of flights with Ali because we need to fly out west from Pittsburgh. So we're going to be mixing and matching here. Like one week you might see Vietnam, the next week you might see Ali and I. I'll figure it out. Once we get on schedule, we should be pretty decent. Alright, so let's bring this baby to her parking spot, shall we? So there we go, folks. That is the F-5E Tiger II. A very capable plane. that is still in use today, that saw combat in Vietnam, survived and lived to tell about it, and is still just a plain old badass. Alright, well, if you've enjoyed this, feel free to click like. Don't forget to subscribe so you get updates on my next flights. And as always, I'll chat with you soon. Ciao!